Right, or my first video tried to give you some idea of how to navigate through the website selections, um, and where different places are going to be. So again, as we're looking at these, I'm going to jump over to my console setting because this is more like what you're going to be looking at. But one of the things we'll be working in is a group project. Um, and that is, I'm going to go back in. Um, it'll let me right in. It looks like, well, um, it's a group project. Um, and what I've done is I've created group pages for six, the six remaining North American uh, Class 1 railroads. At some time in the United States and Canada, there were about 141 Class 1 railroads. Class 1, I'm not sure exactly what it meant, but I think it was, they did over $1 million in business at time. But there were a lot of little regional railroads that actually did a lot of business, like the Elgin, Joliet, and the Eastern, or better known as the E, um, which basically just circled Chicago, but it had huge volumes because it was a connector for a lot of other railroads that came in. They've all consolidated now. And so let me tell you who these railroads are. The CSX, the Chessie system. This is the B&O and the Chesapeake and Ohio, and also the Seaboard Lines, which is a Florida railroad. But they've consolidated all this. Primary thing they carry is coal. Um, there are a lot of other things they do, but a lot of other commodities. The Canadian National is a very small railroad. It just goes coast to coast in Canada. So it goes from Nova Scotia all the way to Vancouver, and then not up the coast, but further up, goes all the way to Prince Rupert. The Canadian Pacific is more the southern line in Canada, and it does the same thing. It goes coast to coast. I think it does more of not the Gaspé Peninsula. Um, anyway, um, closer to Newfoundland, all the way across Canada. Phenomenal engineering feat. When the Chinese needed someone to help them build up into Tibet, they hired Canadian engineers because the Canadian engineers crossed the Rockies and maintain that. Um, the other one is the Kansas City Southern, very interesting little railroad. It goes from Kansas City down through, I believe, Galveston, Texas, and then on into Mexico. So it's merged in with a couple of Mexican railroads. Very interesting little company to study. The next one is Norfolk Southern, another Eastern railroad. This is the Norfolk and Western, includes the old Virginian. Lots of interesting old railroads here. Again, primary commodity is coal. Last is Union Pacific, which is an amalgamation of all of the old Western railroads with the exception of the Burlington Northern Santa Fe. The Burlington Northern Santa Fe is now privately owned. It's actually owned by Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway Group. And anyway, we don't have any public data on it, so we can't really openly study it. But we can study these six railroads because they're all publicly held, publicly traded. And I'm just going to pop into one of them. I can't show you much other than to get out of there. Um, so let me show you what we've got. A file exchange where you send files. Um, and it looks like it's taking a while to load, but you can see that students um, send files in here periodically. Um, this is part of what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to upload a file into the file exchange because it has student names on it. I can't really keep looking at this very much. I shouldn't have picked this one because um, there's a picture of somebody. But basically, what you do in a discussion board, and let me go out of here. We go to a discussion board, and I've got some artifacts of prior courses. But if we were to go into the legal research project, which I can't show you right now, and maybe I shouldn't be making this video. Um, um, Let me see if I can go into the walls. Yeah, I can go to the Wall Street Journal and show you what's going on here. This is what we're going to do. Now I've got to reconfigure it because about 5 weeks ago, the journal completely changed how it does things. So I can't use these sections anymore. I've got to look at this, but Section A used to be U.S. News, World, and World News. Section B was Marketplace. Section C was Money and Investing. Section D was the not Family Journal, but the just kind of general interest journal. And then Letters and Opinions was what you came back to later. But basically, what I ask people to do is read an article in each section and find it, and we'll do it online. I've got a video posted elsewhere that shows you how to get to it. And really, all you have to do in here, and I can't get rid of her completely, unfortunately. Yeah, it's kind of, all you have to do is in each one of these, I set it up, you type a reply. You're then going to find other people who have posted things, you respond to them. So even, you're seeing another student there, you can actually respond to their email or to their thread. And, this is what it looks like. And they've kind of put it all, and this is about right. It's maybe a little long. I'm looking for 3 to 5 sentence paragraphs. I'm not looking for it to be real small, but, you know, uh, anyway, it looks like she's got a really interesting, uh, anxiety and depressions were code names for the candidates. She's talking about um, the Hillary Clinton to depression and Donald Trump to anxiety. Um, anyway, it's kind of an interesting article. She's doing a really great job summarizing it. I mean, if you want to freeze this and read what she's doing, this is really very good work. Um, it's written at a college level. It's very interesting. Um, and we're just kind of getting to know one another, if you will, through this vehicle. So as I told you in the prior one, this is where we're going to be doing uh, a lot of our work. But what you're going to ultimately see is you're going to get, and I'm very likely to copy this content over from OMSL and bring it into our class. All right, so let's look at this, even though it shows item not available. Notice it goes from Monday, August 22, 2016 to Monday, September 5, 2016. So the day class starts is your first day that this is available. I try to get each one available by noon, thereabouts, or if worst case scenario, 3, 4, 5 o'clock Thursday afternoon. Periodically, I'm not going to be able to make it. I may have some big issues getting it, but I should have it due or available to you no later than like Thursday night at midnight. Generally by 8 o'clock, I'm pretty worn out and I start going to bed. So it should be available to you Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then it begins Monday as your first assignment. You are free to work ahead. There's no problem there. except to the extent that it asks you to respond to other students. You may have to wait for other students. One of the things I like to see students do is to talk to as many of their classmates as possible. One of the things we can get to that we don't have, in online learning and in some of the local schools, we may or may not make lifelong friends. I think part of why people went to college, went away to college, is that you get to meet some kids, you're kind of forced to become their friends, you make some acquaintances, some things happen for you. Okay. Now, because you're looking at the professor's screen, this may or may not look exactly like what you've got. For instance, it shows here VoiceThread, item is not available. All the stuff we've got, you don't have the right to build contact, only I do. You don't have the right to build assessments, and you don't get any of the tools. I don't know what this looks like to you. I think it's just everything like this, except you don't get that menu. Um, but let's look at this first one just as an example. They're all going to be pretty similar to this. And notice the way I do it, I tell you the start date, the end date. Now, a lot of students, and I know I'm stressing the negative, focus on the end date. Oh, when's this due? I can put it off till then. Um, that's not a real pathway to success. A better thing, as my wife always says, I can either be early or I can be late. It's extremely rare I can be perfectly on time. And 30 to 40% of students choose to be late, and they wonder why they get lower grades. It's just like my only real way of maybe making you understand that this is not a good habit is to put less points on it. I can say things in comments as I try to look back at your work. Here's what I didn't say. Um, and maybe I'll show you the grade book. That made me think I ought to show you a grade book, because when I go in, so let's just look at tools anyway. If you go into tools, which I always leave up, well, let's look at one other. I don't know if you get all this email stuff, but notice I've got a link here for my grades. You can go straight to my grade book. I'll caution you that because I've built this course over years and I've got a lot of old assignments I don't use, and sometimes my grade book is a little bit confusing. What you need to do is look at what are the assignments he's given me for this semester. Where might the points be there? Maybe I should clear out all this old stuff, but I like to leave it there so that I can utilize it if need be. And I can copy it from semester to semester to semester. You can probably tell from looking behind me, I'm not real good at cleaning up. But anyway, I don't know if you get all of these choices, but one of the things you ought to do in this online class and every other online class is send emails through the Blackboard system. At UMSL, we call it My Gateway. And so there should be a tab, all instructor users. There is an all users, single select users. Again, I'm not going to click on this because I don't want this is all going to be public. So, I may get sued later on for having put their name up. Oh, you made it public that I was in your class at some point in time. I'm running big risks. Anyway, all right. So if you're going to send me an email, send it through here. Really, the best way to contact me tends to be texting me on my cell phone, as I told you in the other one. I know that may seem really, really ancient way to do things, but I carry my phone all the time, and text messages get to me pretty immediately. Now, I have it on silent or vibrate most of the time because I'm in a lot of meetings, but I will eventually get it. I'm not online 24/7, and days when I'm teaching in a classroom, I may not be doing email. I have a little different schedule than full-time faculty. I'm an adjunct. So, email is a good way to get me. It's a real good way to have a continuous notice of, hey, I told you this. Why aren't you getting back to me? If I haven't gotten back to you within 3 days, send me a reminder. All right. And you may need to copy and paste the same text in again and go, hey, I haven't heard back from you. But it's always best to say, Professor, I sent you an email. Can you go check your email? I'll go do that. You don't need to tell me what it's about necessarily there. I'll go look at the email. But anyway, you go to the other thing that's here is my grades. In terms of tools, you can click to tools. We may or may not use Blackboard Collaborate. It's a little bit rusty. We can use McGraw-Hill Higher Education. Let me click on it and see what happens for you guys. Not see anything there. That's not real good. The better deal is that in the assignments tab, I'm always going to connect up this McGraw-Hill material, which is your textbook stuff. And you may want to go into this McGraw-Hill Connect, and it'll show some of these, but some of them don't show up. And one of the ones that doesn't show up is this Chapter 23, White Collar Crime. And it's a pretty big, so it's a click and drag. So you're better off going into each of these, and I've put them in performance order, and I should do that for your class as well. I'll put them in performance order, and you can just go down the list time by time by time, and they'll show up in the grade section. Now they're pretty low value, like Chapter 1 Legal Foundations. I think I only give you a point. Well, this is basically I'm giving you a point for reading the book. Most Harvard professors roll over in their grave at that kind of thing. But notice as we're doing this that we're doing these in a slightly different order. I just think that you're better off looking at legal foundations, then going to business, societal, and ethical contexts of the law before we start getting into litigation and everything else. And I do, so legal foundations is kind of a talk about what are the theories of the law? What do we expect out of the law? Business, societal, and ethical contexts of law are what are some of the norms? And let me just make a general comment that if you're engaging in reasonable conduct which you think the average individual, or and average is not really even a good word, it's broader than that. Reasonable people, I mean, if you look at the bell curve, it's kind of everybody who's outside of the floating around loops. It's the 80% of us, if you will. It's a very big context. Automobile driving is a good example of reasonableness, because even though we have some people who drive really fast and some people who drive really slow and some people who ride their brakes and are extremely slow to change lanes and everything else, all of those people are to one or less extent fairly reasonable. The speeder, not so much. The slow driver, maybe not, but they're not completely outside of a norm. Okay, so we're kind of looking for what are the outliers. We're going to tend to, in law, punish outliers through damages or prison time. That's kind of basically it. As long as you're on the up and up and you are trying your best and you're within reasonable context, you're relatively okay. Now, we could go into a long lecture about the regulatory environment being crushing for business. I like us to also look at the fact that businesses can have a role in creating the um, regulations that uh, govern them. We can even talk about regulatory capture, but that's kind of getting down into the wool, if you will, or into the weave of the fabric. We'll kind of go through this. So what you ought to expect is that I may give you, I try to cover these in 45 minutes or less, but you may get lectures on each of these that you can watch. You're going to have to go into this YouTube miasma potentially, but there should be a link in each of our, so let's go back to our modules. In each of our modules, you're going to see things like this. So when you click on legal and ethical environment, what you're going to find is here are all the assignments. I try to keep this sort of same deal. And a lot of people are going to go, wait a minute, he's got 14 assignments in here. Are you kidding me? Well, folks, you're in a junior level college class. Some of these are, some of it is pretty long stuff. Like it may take you 4 hours. It's 2 hours per chapter to get through all of the reading here. What I've got here, we may or may not be able to use. I've got a Monty Python video down here, but basically, you're going to see things like, but what you're more likely to see is here's a link, Introduction to Ethical Conduct. I want to show, oh, okay. That doesn't link, but you can see there's a link here. And I believe Monty Python has finally made all of their videos public. So we're not in danger of copyright violation. It's a great little merchant banker fun thing. And then here we go. I'm taking you into things like the Legal Research Project, which is a long-term project where we look at some ethical dilemmas. You'll find that there are things like up here, I'm going to have an Excel spreadsheet that gives you assignments. Yeah. So like I'm going to leave you a link to the assignments spreadsheet, which leads us out to course documents where that assignment spreadsheet is. And that spreadsheet will have your name and you go across the row and it's going to give you a case. It's going to assign you a railroad. It's going to assign you 2 of the 10 legal research projects. I've also got a link to the syllabus. So a lot of this is going to be giving you that way. And then I'm going to go into lectures and show you all of this. So, what I'm packing up now may be what we look at. Then I try in every chapter to go ahead and give you McGraw-Hill Connect material. Maybe I haven't done that very well. For chapter 1, this is a good look at for me as I'm building this. Here's an old Panopto video that I did no, it's used Kaltura Media. We don't have this available to us, so I can't use it. So I'm going to have to re-record this lecture. I have to re-record this lecture. I don't have a lecture here. I have to re-record this lecture. This links you to the Legal Research Project. I probably will have a lecture about how to do that. Anyway, I've got some work to get going. I've also got a searching LexisNexis academic to find the case for case presentation, which is an important thing. Once you've opened your Excel document and seen what your case is, Then there's a lecture that shows you how to go into LexisNexis Academic at the St. Louis Community College Library website and find cases. And so anyway, um, I'm going to try to build model 1, and then I probably will build inside this course modules. I may have a collective plate where all of these general instructional videos are going to be there. But if everything else fails, what you may be able to do is go out to you should be able to go into my studio, and all of the lectures should be there. And I'm going to try to create one that's called, it'll be an I don't know what's going on there. What that thing is. That one may be a dead one. But they should all be in here, I'm hoping. And so you should be able to find, once you get one link, you'll be able to go into my website, and I believe it will have a variety of, I don't know if it'll have a bunch of channels. I don't really know what's going on with this. But anyway, you can always come out, and if you want to, you can be either a subscriber, or you can put this in your, in your toolbar for this semester. And it may be a lot of videos. I hope I'm pretty good at this sort of stuff. This is what I think I want to do. I'm going to welcome feedback throughout the semester, because every work is a work in progress. Anyway, that's almost half an hour. I'll let you go. Thanks.